Okay, so I have my pre-cut thread here. I've got 8 strands of each color. And basically what we're going to do, the first step is to cast on. So what that means is generally for a belt length of strings, you'll actually start in the middle of the project. Since we've got this lovely little knot here, we're going to actually work from this end. Basically how I cast on with the knot is I just wrap around the stick with each strand. I don't care in what order they are. These are a slightly variegated yarn, and so there is, some slight difference in the blues, but that doesn't really matter to me at the moment. And I can change that a little bit here, but how you lay out these threads does matter if you're wanting a specific pattern, because this is basically laying out that pattern. So okay, once you have cast on, with the knot on here, I basically just kind of tug and pull back and forth on the strings until that knot is all the way down to the stick. Center it on the stick, and then I like to have it so the knot is up. I'll put it into one of my binder clips here. I'm just working on the edge of my dining table. And then pop my clip over my stick. I like to get kind of close to it, push it down so that the stick can't really wiggle, give a little tug, and now we are set to go. So I like to have one clip down. Some people will use it back. These short strands need a little bit more room to work. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to, it's called picking up the shed. So that basically means that I'm going to split these threads into 2 groups on my finger. So everything's going to be held on my left hand, but I'm going to actually separate everything with my right hand because it's my dominant hand. It's less dumb. But one trick I've always learned is I like for this far right string to be in a down position, and that'll make more sense here in a second. So basically to pick up your shed, basically I'm going to use my middle and my index to pinch that first thread, and that's now down. That's the bottom shed, and then, or bottom half of the shed. And the next one, I'm going to use my thumb and index finger, and I'm going to pinch that next thread, and that's now in the up position. Separate it down, pinch it to go up. Separate down, pinch to go up. Now, if you want to follow the strands up here, but with everything being the same color, it's not a huge deal if they flip around a little bit, because it's all going to work out in the end. And if I really wanted to switch some strings around so that I had certain colors next to each other, I could, but I really don't care. So now that I have my shed picked up, you'll see I kind of pet the strings a little bit quite often, running my hands through it. That's just to keep the strands straight and smooth. But basically, I want to always have a finger in between the shed to always keep those strands separate. So how we start to weave is actually I'm going to reach through that shed with my right hand, and I'm going to grab the farthest left strand. Now for me, with 16 threads, or an even number of threads, and having pushed this thread down, this last thread always going to be in the up position. So it's a lot easier to grab. So you just grab it, pull it through. I'm actually going to just pop it underneath the metal thingy on the binder clip. Oh, stop kicking the camera. Okay, so what that means is now that we have a warp, these are all warp threads, and that is just turned into a weft thread. So what we're going to do is now it's called flipping the shed. So basically I'm going to use that same motion that I just did to pull, make the down threads come up and the up threads go down. An easy way to remember what you're doing is I like to tell myself up, down, and that tells me what the next thread is going to do. This one's going down, this one's coming up, down, up, down, up. And it helps to actually rotate my left hand so that it's actually making your easier access to grab that next thread. Basically, if you don't end the way you just started with this far strand up, you kind of did it wrong. So what you're going to do now, that you can always double check that on what step you're on. So I have nothing in the shed, so I'm going to reach through. This is kind of where the magic is. Now I have a new weft, and now I'm going to actually replace it with this weft thread. So what I'm going to do, and why I like to push that first one down, is I'm actually going to reach under, push this one down and grab it, put my new thread up and locked away. So now this next thread is down, where I always like my new shed. So you can see how it kind of twists around it. So now I gotta flip the shed. Up, down, up, down, up, down. I'll speed up here a little bit. Maybe. Okay, so now we're gonna start watching our tension. So get adjusted here. So basically when you're weaving, you don't want to be able to see the weft, that for me, the bluish purple in between. So in order to, the book shows you can actually just grab your shed and pull it to separate it. And yes, that does tighten it up and down. However, I don't really like doing that. It tends to kind of pull this thread out of line and it gets a little wonky. But basically, if you kind of pull on these weft threads just a little, just enough that you kind of tighten up that tension, and then it'll tighten up a little bit more. The first two rows are kind of goofy. Okay, I'll pull that next weft through, replace it with the last, flip your shed, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So when you're weaving, you're always going to be pulling from the same side for this simple diagonal weave. Now when you get into more advanced stuff, you may be pulling from the center, you may be pulling from the outside to pull them in. But for the diagonal weave, you're always pulling from this far side. For me, since I am pulling with my right, it is the far left thread that I'm pulling through. Apparently I can't multitask. So, okay, so you can kind of see that my tension here is a little wonky. So I can pull on this thread and I can pull on this weft. You can see how that tightens up. I'm actually okay with a little bit of blue showing through. This cotton yarn that I'm using actually does not like being cinched down that hard. It tends to start curling the weave if you do that. So I go ahead and just leave a little bit of a looseness to it. If you do go super tight, power to you. A fluffier yarn is a bit more forgiving. This cotton yarn is easy to work with, and it has a bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Has a bit more texture to it, I guess. And so the threads, oh, there's my cat. The threads kind of don't stick to each other, but they grip nicely without being super slippy. Okay folks, so I have advanced the weave and I've gotten to a point where my short little tail of string is having a hard time staying clipped without just coming loose. And I don't like having these dangle while I'm trying to weave. You can kind of throw them over, but it just doesn't really work quite as well. So what I can do is actually kind of reset my weave here, and I like to kind of push it along the stick and then actually wrap what I've woven around the stick. I like to pull it kind of tight so that I have the knot kind of on the bottom, and it helps to keep this from rotating. And then put my clips back on, squish them down, and now there we go, to the point where I can start weaving again. And I did accidentally drop my shed a tiny bit, so I've kind of lost a bit of where I am, which is not a problem. So what I can do is actually get back to this previous thread by clipping it up and basically just watching up here along that thread to see where strings go, if they go up or down, using that same finger pinch motion from earlier. I'm basically just gonna, there we go, get my shed nice and clean and open. Okay, and I'm gonna reverse what I just did, which is to bring up threads down and down threads up. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay. Okay, now to finish this off, you could do a simple braid. I'm going to show you how to do a, for me it's a Flemish twist because it's also used with bowstrings, but basically it's a counter twist. So how to do it by hand is you take one group and spin them away, twist them. It's a little awkward at first. Twist, away, towards, twist, away, towards. And you're just rotating those fingers. I know this is awkward looking, and this is actually a skill I picked up from another craft, but this is how a counter twist two-sided braid works. Okay, let me tie this off and I'll show you what that counter twist means. Okay, so basically you saw me twisting those strings away. Basically, if I twist them in the same direction that I was twisting the strands, you can see they separate. But now they're hyper twisted, so if I let them go, they twist right back on each other, and they're fairly secure. Otherwise, what you can do is separate out your threads and simply braid them. These don't have to be even. It does help though, and it makes them look prettier. Okay, the way I tend to tie these off, because knotting this many threads is going to be pretty thick, I like to have an additional section of threads to knot around. This is really awkward with the camera in my face. Okay, now I'm doing a box knot, so that means that basically I want my tails to come out on the same side that the first knot was on. And then I like cutting these a little flatter. Okay, so most of your weave, now you've got that other knotted end. You can actually just pull that where it was around the stick, undo this knot,